Brian,
What's up, Jeremy?
Matt, and Mikey. How we doing?
Doing all right. Doing all
Doing
right.
good.
Do
going
y'all know
right,
what
James?
my New Year's resolution was?
What was it?
To start back cut the nets.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Let's go. 1 for 1.
Still a
Yeah.
week late.
Still a week
Oh,
late. Yeah,
never
definitely
mind.
still a week late.
1 for 2.
Yeah. What? I wasn't going to do immediately on New Year's Day. Like, what am I, stupid? No.
January
Would've
2nd
been
still
rough.
sitting there.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, we're back. That's actually the title of our stream. We're back. Cut the Nets is back. I think we'll just title this as Season 2, Episode 1. You can check out our other episodes on YouTube. I think we have about 37 of them. They're on our YouTube. They're on our Spotify. We also have Cut the Nets Twitter, Cut the Nets _BSP, Cut the Nets _BSP for TikTok and Instagram. Yeah. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. I'm
Sweet.
Jeremy. This is Brian. Our guests, Matt and Mikey, along with our producer, Meyer. We're back in studio to talk hoops. All
It's
right.
great. It's great to be back. It feels as an inaugural guest in 2024. It feels great. Can't wait to talk hoops with you, gentlemen. Even though it's a new year, I feel like a lot of our teams are still the same old, same old. So we're gonna keep with that theme, though.
Yes, perfect time to get started again. Less than a month away from trade deadline. So things are about to get popping around the NBA. So good time to get started for sure.
We definitely aren't jumping on that bandwagon because we want to get views because of the trade deadline is coming. We're definitely not doing that. That's not at all what we're doing.
Of course not.
Oh man. Okay, so let's start with yours truly, the Houston Rockets. How are the Rockets doing, guys? From an outside perspective, how do you guys think we're doing?
They're doing pretty good. I mean, I had one of my hot takes for my live take job was that the Rockets would make one of the biggest jumps in the league from where they were last year. Last year they were 22-60, 14th in the second to last in the Western Conference. This year they're 18-17, one game over 500, puts them at the 8th seed in the Western Conference. And I think you're really seeing how needed Dylan Brooks was to this team. He's looked good. Sengun is looking amazing. And I think really where the Rockets are doing so well is at home. They have one of the best home records in the NBA. They're 15-6. Really makes up for a team that's awful on the road when they're 3-11. So as long as the Rockets keep playing at home, I expect them to keep getting some wins.
Yeah, the Rockets, I think they really benefited all around. Ton of players from Fred VanVleet coming there. Obviously, that contract, you can say whatever you want about it, but he's been great. He's helped Sengun a lot as far as operating in the pick and roll, getting him some more usage when they didn't have that great point guard play before that. And then Jabari Smith, the efficiency is still coming up slowly, but I think that he's definitely coming to his own defensively, and they've been one of the best defensive teams in the NBA this year. So I think when you've got the offensive upgrades like VanVleet, like Cam Whitmore is now doing well offensively in his limited minutes, you got a top 5 defense, and then you've got those weapons offensively, like I just mentioned. They're going to take that step up, like you mentioned, Brian.
Yeah, I've been super impressed with the Rockets this season, especially for a team like constructed the way they are. You look at, around the league, there's so many young teams, relatively young teams that have been near the bottom of the league for multiple years. Detroit Pistons, you can name them on top of on both of your hands, really. But with the Rockets, it's really hard for a team that's won under 20 games to almost have 20 wins at this point in the season. Like, to go and have a total switch and identity of not just coaching staff, but also like play style, and have a lot of good results coming off of that is really, really impressive. And all of that, I think, boils down to like having a great coach like Udoka, who makes me think that for the rest of the season, I think the worry about the Rockets is like, what's the petering out process going to be? Like, is there going to be a stretch where they lose a bunch of games? But I personally don't think that that's going to happen. I think they're going to continue to trend at least upward, even if it's slightly for the rest of the season. Udoka has that sort of pedigree where he's going to keep pushing them for the rest of the season and hopefully get into the play-in spot. But I mean, I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about them, Jeremy.
You guys are saying really nice things about my shitty team. Really. Look, they've reached 18 wins twice as fast in the last 2 seasons. Twice as fast. They got their 18th win in March of both seasons last year and the year before that, but didn't even reach 18 wins in the shortened 2020-21 season. So if you're looking at that perspective, I can't ask for more.
It's incredibly impressive. It's super impressive. Like, that's such a huge turnaround.
It is. But I still have some gripes. There are some winnable games for these Rockets. These winnable games, I will list to you right now. Give me 1 second. 1 second, because I've been watching every single game, and there are things that they really should have done within the 2 or 3 possessions they could have won. The 76ers and Rockets game. The game without Joel Embiid, guys. They should have won that game. They really should have. Even Jalen Green, who I have a lot of criticisms about that second overall pick that we wasted our team on. He was doing really well, but then he decided to pass to a Jock Landale who doesn't know how to pass the basketball and just tries to go in for an N1 layup. Again, yeah. That team, we should have won against that in that game. Hell, the Heat Rockets, last night's game. They lost that game too. The thing is, the Rockets really struggle when it comes to teams that are exactly the same as them. The Heat don't have size. The Rockets don't have size either. So the Heat, what they focus more on is perimeter shooting, and Eric Spoelstra makes any player that lives on the street NBA ready. Really,
I think
it's insane. It's freaking amazing, honestly. But the fact that you have Nikola Jovic, a rookie Jaime Jaquez Jr., to just bully Şengün, Jabari, and just I mean, yeah, that we're without Dylan Brooks and Tari Eason for the time being, but still, I feel like the Rockets really had a break here without Jimmy Butler and without Caleb Martin. Look, I'm the harshest critic here on this podcast about my Rockets. I'm glad they're at least a little over 500 team, but they're terrible on the road. They cannot win on the road right now. Their 3-point shooting is one of the worst on the road. The fact that when they win at home, yeah, that's cool, but still, it's just there's some things that the Rockets can't do well that they should be doing well, and that's 3-point shooting. That's size from Jabari Smith, and of course Jalen Green, the second overall pick, who I mentioned earlier, that I have trouble with.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you something about Jalen Green because I was watching that podcast. I don't remember which it was, but before the season started, it was the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast. Josh Lloyd hosted that, and he said, I don't think the 3rd-year leap or a stardom leap for Jalen Green is coming in his career by now. Do you feel the same way?
I do. There's these couple of Rockets media people that are very popular on Twitter. They praise Jalen Green for any single thing he does on the court. But I look at it from an overall perspective. Is he scoring consistently? Look, James Harden in his 3rd season with OKC actually had really good games. Really, really good games, like consistently off the bench. It's what got him 6th Man of the Year. In his 1st season with Houston, even if he had a bad game, it was still a pretty good game by NBA standards. Like in his 1st year in Houston, not like in his 5th or 6th year when he was an all-star MVP caliber player. This was his 1st year in Houston with Chandler Parsons and Jeremy freaking Lin. He was the reason why the Rockets made the playoffs as an ace seed. So I just don't see it. Jalen, whenever he shoots the basketball, it's very erratic. Yes, when he knocks down shots, it's cool to see, but it's only in like J.R. Smith moments. You guys kind of understand what I'm saying? He's
Yeah, I
kind of
do.
like J.R. Smith to me a little bit.
You know what it reminds me of? Reminds me a lot of Cam Thomas in Brooklyn. Everybody, he'll go off for like 40 points, 30 points if he gets his opportunity. Everybody expects it. But when he's a role player playing 22, 24 minutes a night off the bench, if his shot isn't falling, what else is he going to do to contribute? And it's really like tween, dribble, cross, step back. Like it's not fun basketball to watch, in my opinion.
And there's people that see John Morant, who we're going to mention later with his injury. They compare Jalen to John Morant, and I'm like, well, Ja is a lot better because you don't really know where he's going when he's going downhill. You have no idea if he's going to use his left hand or his right hand in midair. You don't know. Jalen has literally one speed, and it's to go fast and hope to God that there's not a hand in his face when he gets a layup in. But sorry, this is the NBA. There's always going to be a hand in your face when you try to go for a layup. You've got to figure out where if you can initiate contact first to get to the line, or be like John Morant, just jump 5 or 6 feet and dunk the basketball. That's what Ken Whitmore is doing. Shout out to Ken Whitmore right now. Ken Whitmore has been freaking amazing so far in his limited amount of time. I want Udoka to give him more minutes. Before we move on to another team, 2 more things I got to say. The Rockets got to trade Jock Landale and Jayshawn Tate to get Malcolm Brogdon from the Blazers. I just got to say that, and also a couple of firsts to increase the value. But they got to trade those 2 players. We need a backup point guard, a backup center. I really wish that we kept Isaiah Hartenstein. Screw you, Brian. And I think we got to keep Jalen Green because his rookie contract. He's got really no value right now. What's my beef with Jock Landale? Meyer, you know exactly what my beef with Jock Landale is. Are you being sarcastic? I'm pretty sure you are. Jalen Green's his value right now is not very high, and so we have to keep him. He's on a rookie deal. We embrace whenever he goes off, but that's not consistent.
I have 2 quick points on Jalen Green. Admittedly, I haven't seen a lot of Rockets games this year. I probably caught 2 or 3. But whenever I watch Jalen Green, I get this like fury boiling in my stomach, not because of him as a player, but like an indictment on the coaching that he had early in his career. Because I feel like the first 2 years, especially a player like him, he came out of the G League Ignite, right? He did yeah. So a player like him, you have there's obvious talent in there. He's so athletic and he's coordinated dribbling, which at this point, like in this point in time in the NBA, that's like the base skills for an elite player. When I watch him, I just feel like he never grew out of, he never had any growing pains, or he never got checked on working out those bad habits with, was it Steven Silas Jr. or is it just Steven Silas? Yeah. He never got those bad habits out of him. And now he's forced in a system where Udoka's basically a dictator and a disciplinarian, where he's not gonna, I think there's some pressure on both sides of Jalen trying to fit into what Udoka's trying to do, and Jalen also still trying to be that player that a lot of people envisioned him to be. And the second point is I wouldn't give up all hope on a player like that, because there's a player in my life, Jaylen Brown, who took 3 full seasons on a really good team that was always competing to kind of figure out what his role is. Same thing with Paul George. People forget Paul George took almost 3 full seasons to figure out exactly what his elite skill set would be. I'm not saying Jalen Green could turn into Paul George, but there's still players around the league that it does take them time. And like you said, Jeremy, he's on a rookie contract, so you can't just throw him away.
Yeah.
But I would hold out hope. I still would hold out hope on him. He's still super talented and super young. He's what, 21, 20?
He's 21. Yeah. Again, I'm not ruling out when we talked about the things we would try to we would try to see if we can make our teams better via trades, because the trade deadline is next month. Mm-hmm. I'm not trading Jalen Green. I'm not doing that, because I don't want to suffer the fact that if Rafael Stone trades Green to a team, that he just completely blossoms and turns into a 28 per game scorer. and it's going to be really just like, wow, we didn't really know how to effectively use him like we should have. So he needs to be more integrated in the system. I do agree with that. Jaylen Brown. I mean, Paul George. He was pick 13, I believe, in 2011 or 2010, 2011, 2010, either one of those years. Jaylen Brown, 2016 third overall pick, perfect example of that. PG was a 10th pick in 2010, barely in the top 10 in the 2010 NBA draft. And he was mostly known for his defense. He wasn't really known for his offense, rather. But he developed it in the NBA over time. So with Jaylen, he just needs to finesse and sort of fulfill his offensive game and make it more unpredictable in Udoka's system. It's going to take some time. I'm not like what I'm seeing right now. I was sort of fooled in the 2 years he was with Silas, but I could kind of see that there were some things he needed to fix while he was under Silas, but Silas wasn't really willing to decipher that. Mm-hmm. He just let Green have whatever he wants and go and be scary with Kevin Porter Jr. Literally, that's their quote. We're going to be scary. That's scary hours. That's what they said. Like the Drake, like the Drake EP that did not age well. You're right. But we're going to go with the New York Knicks, see how they're doing with my man, Brian Ramos. Brian, take it away. How are your Knicks doing this season?
So one thing I want to say before quickly, I'll keep it short, but no, like you said, Jeremy, I'm loving the play from Cam Whitmore lately. He came in raw, and that's why he was sent to the G League to fix those things. Now he came back, and he's been very efficient, shooting the ball well. He's even been solid defensively, getting some steals, but you're still not seeing that like playmaking ability where he's not really known to be an assist guy. But I definitely agree with you. Whitmore should be getting more minutes. Yes. Now, to answer your question on how the Knicks are doing, Knicks are doing great. They are undefeated in 2024. They're 4-0. There's a 1-2-3. There's a 5-way tie for fourth place in the East at 21-15 record. Knicks are currently 7 seed due to all the tiebreakers and stuff, but they've had some quality wins in this 4-0. They beat the Timberwolves January 1st. They beat, which was the debuts of OG Anunoby and Precious Achiuwa. They beat the Bulls. They crushed the 76ers, and then they beat the Wizards. So actually half of that were solid wins, but 4-0 is 4-0. OG Anunoby has been great. That first hour of the trade that happened, I was losing my mind, angry, didn't know what to think. And then I put my analytical and like sports writer mind, and I took away like my fandom and just looked at it logistically. And I thought it was a great trade. We weren't committed to Quickly at all in terms of re-signing him. He wanted Jalen Brunson money. Leon Rose didn't want to pay our backup point guard, our franchise point guard, same salary. And there was a rumor that before the Celtics traded Marcus Smart to Memphis, they were going to trade him to New York for Quickly. So that would have been interesting to see. But so clearly we weren't committed to Quickly even earlier than I thought. Although I do like Quickly, it's sad to see him go, but you need to trade good players to get good players back. And OG Anunoby has been solid. He was known as a defensive wing, but I didn't know he was third in the NBA in corner threes. So he's just incredibly helped the Knicks spacing, and he has the highest plus minus in the first 4 games of all time as a Knick. He's averaging 12 points, 5.3 rebounds, 1.5 steals, 50% from the field, and he's plus 85 over and under, plus minus. And they did get Precious Achiuwa. That's really only because Taj Gibson was our backup center and Josh Hart was the backup 4. He's not really a Tibbs guy. I haven't been that impressed with him, but at the end of the day, the way the roles are, Knicks centers aren't really supposed to score, so I'm fine. If Achiuwa wasn't included in the OG deal, I would have loved the Knicks to trade for Kelly Olynyk, but
everybody wants Kelly Olynyk, man.
Yeah,
That's true.
Solid player.
But no, the Knicks have been good. Jalen Brunson was Eastern Conference Player of the Week, averaging 27.3 points and 9.3 assists. And my guy, Isaiah Hartenstein, has been incredible since entering the starting role. 13.5 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2.3 steals, 10.5 points while shooting 69% from the field.
Nice.
I mean, the Knicks have just been great all around. I'm glad Josh Hart isn't playing the backup 4. Yeah, Meyer, he's Precious more of a 4, forced into the 5. But Josh Hart isn't forced into the backup 4, which I'm loving. Dante DiVincenzo has been very good since entering the starting lineup. I think it's even been good for Quentin Grimes. There's been less pressure off him coming off the bench. And I did have to upgrade. I got the Jalen Brunson jersey now instead of the RJ jersey in the back. But no, I'm loving this Knicks basketball. As far as the trade deadline goes, this is just typical New York stuff in terms of, we're going to get this guy. We want this guy. We want this guy. Seems like we're linked to everyone. The Donovan Mitchell rumors have been kind of quieting down. There's Karl Anthony Towns rumors where I don't want Karl Anthony Towns, especially if it's going to cost Randall. I think Randall is once again, all-NBA player, definitely an all-star. There's the DeJounte Murray rumors, which I'm not really too fond about. At this point, just the way the Knicks are and they're constructed, I think they're waiting for their big splash to be in free agency because these free agency classes are going to be amazing. And other than Mitchell, there's not really a superstar that could be traded for, and especially like a good fit. So at this point, the only like real trade I want the Knicks to make is I want a high-level bench scorer to replace what Quickly was. And I think the two best fits in that would be Malcolm Brogdon from Portland, the reigning fraudulent sixth man of the year. Should have been Quickly. Or
still have that beef, huh?
Oh, I hold grudges, yes.
Oh my goodness.
But Terry Rozier would be a really another solid option. DeJounte Murray's a good player, and I like watching him, but I just don't know how he can fit with this team. I don't know how much he actually makes the Knicks better. And so that's why I'm fine with like cautiously buying at the trade deadline, if that's like the word you want to use. I just like where the Knicks are at and keep looking to go 5-0 in 2024 by beating Portland tonight.
Brian, I think Terry Rozier is a great choice for New York.
It is.
I mean, he's at the right age. He's in the wrong team because the team just is trying to figure themselves out again another year. And it's also the fact that they keep having LaMelo Ball injured every year. Brandon Miller is pretty much their only silver lining. And, of course, maybe Bridges, too. He's been playing really, really well. Let's just hope that his off-the-court issues stay in the back burner. But, yeah, Terry Rozier, I mean, where he's at, I think he wants that playoff atmosphere again, like when he was with Boston. So I think he'd be a great option. I'm not sure what New York would give up to acquire Rozier, but Leon Rose needs to do anything he can to acquire that player because he'll be great.
You'd think Hornets would want at least one young player and a couple picks. Probably for
so.
Rozier. He's having a career year without LaMelo Ball right now.
He just finished with like 39 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. And Colin Sexton, Meyer, that's also a good option. Less offense minded though, because of course you got Lauri Markkanen, who's I guess you could say the franchise star in Utah, but I would say Sexton is more of the realistic option. Terry Rozier is kind of like a shot in the dark type of option where do anything you can to try and acquire him, but don't give up too much players to acquire him like that.
Yeah, you talked about my guy Isaiah Hartenstein. It's funny because I've loved Hartenstein ever since he was a Clipper, and I said back then, if you give Hartenstein 30 minutes a night, I got to see that because he stuffs the stat sheet. I mean, you said it yourself. Whenever centers play with Tibbs, Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, these guys have like sub 5% usage. but he continues to, he's racking up 2 blocks, 3 steals, 16 rebounds. He'll score a couple points, maybe 5-6 points, but his impact is way more than the box score shows. And I think the offense, a lot of it just flows better. Now, he's still a lob threat target, obviously not as much as Mitchell Robinson, but he can still go and do that. You can use him as a hub a little bit at the mid post on offense. He's a great passer for a big man. So I'm loving what Hartenstein is doing. It's probably been my favorite thing in the NBA as far as an objective fan this year, that Hartenstein has been able to show what he can do in 30-plus minutes. But yeah, the Knicks, I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit more, but you were talking about DeJounte Murray. I think he and what the Hawks do now is they obviously stable DeJounte Murray at point guard when Trey is out. So I think he could be a solution to that backup point guard and that scoring off the bench. But yeah, it's obviously a lot more you're going to give up for him than say a Terry Rozier or Colin Sexton. So, and we will talk about that a lot later. But that's interesting because the Knicks, they also have a small point guard. So if you're getting in another point guard or shooting guard with him, it's going to be an interesting fit there in the backcourt.
Yeah, Brian mentioned Marcus Smart getting traded for Emmanuel Quickley a while ago, and it broke my brain. So I've been in a brain fog ever since then. So I'm still trying to process all this information. But on the Knicks front, I mean, all of you guys have pretty much said the points I was going to make. I think the one thing I do want to harken on a little bit, because I've always loved Precious Achiuwa for some reason, and it may have just been like that half season he played in Miami. I was like, this guy has a motor, and that could be one thing maybe why they tried to get him, was he does like have like this crazy energy that Tibbs players like Gibson might be able to provide. But that kind of leads into like the one trade I think the Knicks should make is prioritize another big man, maybe even a versatile big man. And I don't necessarily think it's Olynyk, because the way the Knicks play and the way that Olynyk thrives is having the sort of being like a Jokic. He's not that, I should backtrack. No one should ever be compared to Jokic.
Spacing the floor.
Yeah, like a center who initiates offense from the top. And Olynyk's a really good passer, but the Knicks kind of have good enough playmaking already where I think adding like an Olynyk kind of seems redundant and might be taking away from better playmakers like Randall and Brunson. I kind of trust them more than Kelly Olynyk, no offense. Like, that makes sense. So finding a big man like, I don't know if this is going to make you cringe, but like Zach Collins, like a type of player like that can give you maybe a little bit of stretch with shooting, still a good rebounder because Tibbs loves rebounders, but something along those lines. And along the guard, if you were going to get a guard, you said dynamic bench scorer, and I think a Utah Jazz player that you haven't named, Jordan Clarkson, would fit right in with that right there.
Him too, yeah.
He's a little bit cheaper than Rozier, and you might not have to give up as much for Rozier because he's older, but there's obviously some downsides to Clarkson as well, and not that good of a defender, and you don't know what the heat check possibility is going to be.
He doesn't match the play style of Tibbs.
Yeah,
I don't think that'll work.
That might be a little abrasive, but if you're just looking for points and you want a guy who can go and get you 17 on like 8 of 11 shooting, Clarkson's not a bad option, especially, like I said, you might not have to give up as much as the other bigger name, whether it's Sexton or Murray or Terry Rozier that you mentioned. But I like what the Knicks are doing. I mean, they're just like a competent team. It's nice to have competent teams in the NBA again. And they're, for a 7th seed right now, like you said, to be 21-15, like that's pretty good.
Yeah, no, the East has definitely been more competitive now and last year than in recent years. I'm still not ready to say that they're better than the West, because they're not. The West is still the more competitive conference. But no, I love what the Knicks are doing right now. They're in a good spot. And honestly, the way Deuce McBride's been playing his last 2 games, they don't even need a trade right now. Excuse me. But another center I like that the Knicks could get is Mason Plumlee. I've always been a big Plumlee guy. If I had to build an all-around role player team, Mason Plumlee would be on it.
I think he's hurt, but that would be good.
He just came back.
Oh, is he back now? Okay, good.
Yeah, because I was watching the Clippers-Bulls game. The Bulls-Hornets game. I was watching 2 different games. I watched the Clipper game, and then I watched the Bulls-Hornet game. And yeah, Mason Plumlee came back like the last 5 minutes and played, like, closed out the game. But then I'm thinking the Bulls might make a trade soon. Unrelated, but because they benched Levine and Vucevic, and they
Oh,
came off the bench.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna blow it up for sure.
They have to.
They
have to.
should, but like that indication to me is like that it's happening soon.
I mean, it's the trade deadline's in a month, so it's gonna be pretty much up in the air.
Yeah.
This month and then into the All-Star game next month. Okay, let's go to Matt and talk about his Celtics. The Boston Celtics always have been a top 3 team in the East over the last 2 or 3 seasons now, ever since they went to the NBA Finals with Ime Udoka. Funny enough. The Celtics, yeah. I mean, they are around
Best
that.
team in the league.
Around that threshold too. Again, this year. Here's the thing, Matt. I know before you get into your shtick, the Celtics have been always among the top teams in the East every single season since Kyrie left, honestly. But they haven't really had much to show for in the playoffs. They always go up to 6 or 7 games against the Heat or the Bucks. It's always the Heat or the Bucks, and it looks like it's having that same like type of result this season. So, does this regular season kind of give you hope at all?
Yeah, I mean, you just explained the entire mentality of Celtics fans for the last 3 years. It's always like they look really good in the regular season. They look great in the regular season this year. I mean, 28 and 8. I think they dropped their last one last night. So,
yep,
3 games better than the next best record in the league. So yeah, I mean, it looks great, and it looked great last year. But the story with them is always going to be, what does it look like when you play a team in a series that can focus on the things that we do well? Like, obviously, the Miami Heat are the team that has really hunkered down on the Celtics and made them look like a bad team at times, and also just like made them go into total dysfunction at times. But even in other series, like you said last season, the Philadelphia 76ers brought them to 7 games. Mikey's Atlanta Hawks brought them to 6 games. And so when they get into the playoffs, it's always going to be, how do they perform? How do their stars perform? And more importantly, this year, what is the new system? What are the new guys, of Porzingis and Holiday, bring to the table in the playoffs? Because they are different players than Smart and Grant Williams and some of the other guys that they've had in years past. What gives me a little bit of hope, and I'm always going to be tempered in my reaction to Celtics basketball, whether they beat a team by 40 or they beat they win a tough matchup against a good team in the regular season. I'm always going to temper my expectations just because of what I laid out. But what I like about this season is some of the flaws that they've had in the playoffs. Is one of the big ones is losing home games. They had home court advantage throughout the playoffs last season against all 3 of those teams that they played. They lost a home game to Atlanta. Maybe even 2. 2 home games to Atlanta, or maybe 1. 2 to Philly, and 2 to Miami. And it's like you work
3,
that,
actually.
or 3 to Miami. You work hard. You work that hard all season to get home court advantage, and you have an advantage. Like I've been to the Boston Gardens many times. I love the Boston Garden. I think it's a great atmosphere, and it's really hard to play in. But you work that hard, you drop those home games. Fast forward to this year, the Celtics are 17-0 at home, which is like a star in my check marks of like what the Celtics need to do this year. Them being a fantastic home team, I think, is going to be like such a big thing for them to use in the playoffs. Like, to just have not only the mentality that they can win home games and win big home games, but using that energy and all of that stuff in those games is going to be super important for them. And also, let's get to it, Kristaps Porzingis. I was nervous heading into the season, but the man is very disciplined, more disciplined than I thought he would be on this team. I thought he was going to be chucking up way more threes than he should be. I thought he was going to be a little bit like cautious around the basket, but Brian, I'm sorry to like give you some PTSD here talking great about Kristaps, but he is like the unicorn label. It fits perfectly for what he does. Like it really, he is a versatile, sharpshooting shot blocker. And awesome to see, especially around like Tatum and Brown and all the other great players they have. But he's the main piece for the Celtics team. And if he stays healthy, they're going to be a really, 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 really tough team to beat throughout the playoffs. And that's the only thing that matters for them. Like you said, Jeremy, like if regular season, not that they shouldn't care about it, but overreacting to the regular season, like that's not going to happen anymore. I'm really interested to hear what you guys have to say too, because I'm always want to know what teams have to think, or people have to think about the best team in the league.
You mentioned Porzingis. I don't know if this is a hot take within Celtics Twitter or Celtics fans. I think he's been your second best player this year.
When he plays, certainly. When he plays, he certainly.
Yeah, and I think the Celtics. When I look at a team and say, okay, what are their weaknesses and what are their strengths? You mentioned he covers a lot of, and Grant Williams left, Marcus Smart left. He covers a lot. He covers a lot of the issues defensively. When Horford doesn't play, obviously on those back-to-backs. And when I look at a team's strength and weaknesses, I think this is the only team in the league that I look at and say, this team has no glaring weakness. None. I can't think of they got 3-point shooting. They got the defense on the perimeter and at the rim. They have offensively. They can play slow. They can play fast. I don't see a weakness in the Celtics team. Now, granted, got to see it in the playoffs, like you said. What are they going to do? But this team, the way they're playing right now, I don't see any team, maybe besides the Timberwolves or the Thunder in the West, taking them in a 7-game series in the East. I don't see a team right now, especially with the Bucks, the way they've been playing recently. I just don't see it for the East right now.
Yeah, I mean, what I was going to say was, no, the Celtics definitely taking care of the second best guard in basketball. 17-0 is huge. Obviously, you got to win those home games. Look at the Rockets. It's keeping them in a play-in situation, especially when they're slightly over 500 on the road, 11-8. Those home games are really mattering for Boston. Yeah, I agree with Mikey also. I don't see a weakness in the Celtics team. I think their only issue is health, and then Jaylen Brown's left hand in the playoffs. I don't really see any team that can beat the Celtics in the East, especially right now. I mean, Matt, question to ask you though is, I know they played them back to back, and they lost to them yesterday, but they beat them Saturday. Before that game on Saturday, the Celtics haven't beaten the Pacers. And why? I just want to know, why is that? Because obviously the Pacers are one of the best teams offensively, but they're also one of the worst teams defensively. And I just feel like that the Celtics are one of the best two-way teams in basketball.
Yeah, first, I love that you guys are talking so great about the Celtics, and this obviously means that they're going to lose in disastrous fashion now. This means
we're giving them so much praise.
Yeah, you guys have jinxed them to beyond repair. But this team does. I mean, I watch them too much, so obviously, there's flaws that I want to point out that might not be as big of a deal to they're 28-8. Like, come on, it's hard to pick apart a team that's 28-8, but. Brian, you bring up a really good point. Against teams that are, it's pretty self-explanatory, but against teams that are really good offensively and that play really fast, the Celtics have trouble, I think, working their offense around that. Like, they try and play up to that pace, and while the Celtics can play fast, they can play slow. Going at 100 miles an hour for them, I think, is kind of like a poison pill. And so teams last week they played the Thunder. The Thunder are a lot like that. They get up and down the court, try and maximize as many possessions as they can. And when the Celtics get into a shooting contest, I think we kind of lose sight of what our offense is, and it's a free-flowing, multiple level offense. We can score at the rim, we can score mid-range, we can score behind the 3-point line. When you play a team like OKC, it's pretty understandable to get into you see all those threes going in by OKC, you see Shea doing all that stuff, and you want to try and match it. And the Celtics try and hit home runs a lot. So Indiana last night, Halliburton went out. Indiana goes on a 9-0 run, and the Celtics right after that, you just see them start to chuck up some threes, play a little bit out of themselves. Jaylen going too fast. So yeah, they have to. And I'm not quite worried about that because the playoffs are always slower. But definitely throughout the regular season, I would like to see them figure out how to, especially against quicker guards, figure out how to manage the game a little bit better. And Indiana is a really tough matchup for them. Halliburton, I know White and Holiday are really good defenders, but Halliburton works them. He absolutely gives them the business. And it's tough to watch sometimes, but
Yeah, and then the other thing I was going to say is like you mentioned, Matt, the Porzingis PTSD is kicking in real hard right now. But I do forgive him because he did say that he wishes he handled things better with his Knicks tenure. But one thing he said, he has been balling, and honestly, maybe he's been their second best player this year behind Tatum. But just the if word with Kristaps Porzingis and healthy is a big if. The last time he played 60 games or more was, besides last year, was the 2016-17 season with the Knicks. So if he can stay healthy, and he'll be fine. The Celtics will be championship contenders, and I think honestly, like this Boston team allows him to be healthy because, like you said, he's in a great situation as probably the third or fourth scoring option, and he knows his role. He's not taking the same level of shots as in Washington. He was with Dallas and he was with the Knicks. So as long as he can remain more efficient instead of like more like dominant, then I think that will keep him healthier, especially since he has bulked up in recent years. So that's going to help him stay healthy. And then he has been, but like the only like worry on Porzingis other than like his health is he's been very like inconsistent with his 3-point shooting. Like he went 2 for 3 against the Thunder, but then he was like 2 for 8 against the Lakers, 0 for 7 against the Spurs. I just feel like he's not known to be a sharpshooter, but I just think the inconsistency could be worrisome depending on if they need him in close games, like against the Pacers or teams with like solid defensive big men like the Bucks.
Pause real quick. Do you guys have a option in your settings to reduce background noise on your audio?
I have that on.
I do.
Who just turned it on?
I did.
Wait, it's still there.
I also did.
There's a lot of background noise I hear from somebody.
Yeah, I don't know where it's coming from. It's not me.
Is it Matt?
It's people talking.
It could be me. Let me check if my roommates are back. Hold on.
Yeah, I think it's Matt because when
Yeah,
he just
Matt.
muted it.
It sounds like they're having a lot of fun on Tuesday.
Sorry, my roommates were outside.
No, it's okay. Just want to address it immediately so we can continue. Also, good timing because I think Brian finishes what he was going to say. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. I'll conclude. I have a couple of stats I'm looking at for the Boston Celtics in rankings. So there's only one stat where I see, or actually a couple of stats where I see the Boston Celtics may have weaknesses in. So they're a team, Matt, I'm sure you know, that scores early on in the early going to try and run away with the game each and every single time. Pause. There's still background noise. Sorry. Is there like a way we could just like Matt, is there a way where you could just somehow reduce the volume or something?
Yeah, I mean, I can mute every time I'm not talking. I can mute. But...
Okay, that'll fine. All right, that'll work. So as I was saying, there's a couple of things that the Boston Celtics are really good at, and that is scoring early on. The first and second quarter, they are number one in points per game. In the third quarter, however, that's where the things sort of change. They are only 20th in points per game in the third quarter. So teams, if they really want to beat Boston, they got to slow them down early because Boston isn't going to do much. Isn't going to do much scoring compared to the second half in the first half. So I'll address the Detroit Pistons game at which they nearly lost because they were down by a bunch in the first half.
I was at that game.
Oh, well, congratulations. You won against the worst team in the league.
It didn't feel like a congratulations. Let me tell you that.
Oh, man. You thought you were like cursing them, weren't you?
I can give a little story on how my feelings were heading into the game, but it might be too long. So I'll let you finish.
But that is something maybe the Detroit Pistons maybe tried to do and implement. But again, they're the Pistons. Of course, you got to catch up. I mean, the Rockets blew them out. Every other team has blown them out. They're 3-33. They're the worst team in the league and likely the worst team in the history of the NBA in the regular season. They're on pace for that. They're going to be worse than the Charlotte Hornets, the 7-59 Charlotte Hornets in the 2016 Sixers, I believe. Yeah.
Yep.
So the other thing that they're not very good at is stealing the basketball. They're good at defense, number 4 in the league, but their steals are 27th. So it's not necessarily taking care of the basketball. It's the way that they're contesting shots. They're not really stealing the basketball as much as a team. And their assists to field goals made is also 24th. So they really slow the game down, as Matt mentioned, because they can't really handle fast-paced teams like the Pacers, in which they lost by a nail-biting 2 points. So NBA teams, if you want to beat Boston, you got to play fast. You got to get them early and make sure they don't score early on. And you also got to take care of the basketball and make your shots. That's it. That's all you got to do. But
That's
honestly, kudos. What's up?
That's a lot of it.
Yeah. There's a lot of it, especially on a 28-8 team in which they're undefeated at home, obviously. I'm talking to my Rockets right now because you guys will be facing them in the next couple of weeks on the road. So
I think they play on Monday, right? Next Monday or Sunday, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. They play the Bulls and Detroit Pistons, and then I think they play y'all after that, I believe.
Jeremy Analytics.
Team Rankings is my favorite website. I don't like NBA as much because I gotta go through a bunch of pages. Team Rankings is like one of the best websites to look at for stats, just in case you guys want to write some pieces. That's where I get my sources. But yeah, Boston Celtics, great in the regular season. Let's see what happens in the playoffs. I'm not that impressed yet, but Kristaps Porzingis is really thriving. Excellent. Yeah. I was actually against it. I thought the Celtics were like, what are you doing? Why are you giving away Marcus Smart? The Grizzlies are going to be one of the best teams in the league. And when John Morant comes back, they'll be the best team in the league. Completely backfired.
Yeah, I didn't know how it was going to work at all when they got him, but because I thought adding more size to an already big team was just kind of redundant, but he can kind of fit wherever. He can play along Horford, play alongside Horford. He can play alongside all the Luke Cornett and all the Celtics backup centers. So it's been great to watch.
Derek White too. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a reason why they're the number 1 team in 3-point percentage and 3-point shooting attempts.
White's awesome. White's really good.
So,
but before we move on, I do want to ask the Celtics fan this. Matt, do you think that Derek White should be in the All-Star game?
No. I think no, I'll keep my answer short. No, I mean White's been great. He's been awesome, but there's a different level to being an all-star.
Yeah.
Right?
I love Derek White as well, but I think the all-star talk around him has kind of been overblown a little bit for sure.
Yeah, I mean I don't
there
really
was an all-star game for role players.
Yeah, I don't really
he would definitely be in there.
I don't really even get I understand wanting to create a campaign for your guys and stuff, but Derek's great. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to slander him, but he's not an all-star. No.
Vote Şengün for All-Star, by the way. Hopefully you guys voted.
I agree with that.
I would, if I had a vote, I would vote for him.
You can vote. Go on NBAallstar.com.
That doesn't mean anything.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it
Your
does.
vote counts. I voted.
I did see a couple days ago your vote counted for 3 times the thing, and that's when I was like, this doesn't mean anything because somebody is voting for Boban Marjanovic like 3 times today. So they're gonna,
What was that? I remember when people were voting for Zaza Pachulia. He was like number 1.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy.
Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
The fan vote. No offense to us fans and writers and everybody who can vote.
It was treacherous.
That's ridiculous.
Oh, there's a guy. Yeah, there's a guy in the Warriors that could be taken advantage of getting on the 3-time vote. His first name's Jonathan.
He's being underused and overlooked, Brian. But we'll get to that subject on another episode. Let's get to Mikey's Hawks. It's a mixed bag for this man.
Mixed bag is the biggest understatement.
Yeah,
this is the most confusing team in the NBA, bar none.
They went from mid to confusing.
They went to mid to confusing to bad. And the Hawks, you mentioned steals, right? You like the Celtics don't get these steals, man. It's weird. The Hawks are the 7th. The Hawks are 7th in the league in steals. DeJounte Murray is 12th. Trae Young is 11th. Bogdanovic is 20th as of before the game against the Magic. But the Hawks cannot play a single bit of defense. And this kind of goes back to why I've been bring up Brian brought up DeJounte Murray trade. I think he's going to be the number 1 guy to look for if you're paying attention to the Hawks as far as the guy that gets traded, just because of the fit. And he's a great off-ball defender, right? He's going to cause havoc on the perimeter, going to intercept passing lanes, create easy offense. That's why the Hawks are top 6 in offensive rating. But he can't play point of attack defense. After he tore his ACL, I believe in 2018, Spurs people, when the trade went down, said he's not the defender he used to be. And a lot of Hawks fans, including me, I didn't want to believe that. DeJounte Murray's reputation around the league, lockdown, first-team All-NBA defender as a rookie. Like, that's never happened before in NBA history. But he's just not a good defender, man. Point of attack, guys get around him so much. And when you play next to Trae Young, who in my opinion has been a better point of attack defender than Murray this season, it's not a good recipe. It's not a good recipe for winning. And Trae Young is having a ridiculous season. He tied Oscar Robertson for 7-30 in 10 games in a row before this stretch of rough shooting. He's coming off an AC sprain in his shoulder, so I think that's still a little bothering him a little bit. But he was having a career year from 3, shooting 38%. All the inefficiency issues from Trae were kind of getting overblown a little bit in my opinion. But he's having a great season. But it's just been so weird. The defense allowing 307 points to the Pacers in 2 games this year. That's just insane.
It's the Pacers, best team in the league when it comes to offense.
Best team in the league when it comes to offense. And the Hawks have been top 5 in offense for the majority of the season. But I sound like a broken record right now. The point of attack defense, the missed rotations, Saddiq Bey, I think, has been really, really let down. I've been low on Saddiq Bey for his entire career. So I wasn't really a fan of the trade, especially 5 seconds. That's a lot, in my opinion. And he's been really in a shooting slump. He shot 60% from corner threes for the Hawks last season after the deadline. He's sub 30 from the corners this year. And that takes away so much spacing around a Trae Young pick and roll. So there's a lot of problems with this team, clearly. But I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts and then getting into the trade deadline stuff for the Hawks, because I think it's going to be a wild ride here in the next month.
Yeah, so Jeremy actually mentioned it. The Hawks went from good to mid to confusing. So as the Hawk fan who clearly knows his stuff, knows his stats, I was going to ask you, with DeJounte Murray publicly in the trade rumors, you pretty much saying Clint Capella is available. I know they're 14-21, currently the 12th seed, but they're only a game out of the play-in spot. If you're the GM, if you're Landry Fields, are you going into the trade deadline? Are you looking to be sellers, or are you trying to rebuild or retool?
I definitely retool, because to me, a rebuild signifies that you do not have a player to build around yet. Now, the Hawks have labeled Trae Young and Jalen Johnson, who, by the way, I think is definitely top 2 in most improved player race. He's been amazing this year. He suffered a fractured wrist from when Kyle Kuzma fouled him in Washington, and the Hawks I'm pretty sure went 2-11 in the games after that. It was pretty bad, but he's been really good, and I think they realize that he's got to build around. So I think a retooling is definitely the way to go. Kind of reload for next season, and then go for it. The Hawks own their pick this season, but after that, they owe the pick to San Antonio from that DeJounte Murray trade. So in the beginning of next season, I think the Hawks will really look to use the picks that they get from a Murray trade, from a Capella trade, Bogey, whoever they trade besides Jalen and Trae Young. I think they'll use those picks to then try and refocus the roster and compete for next season. So I think I wouldn't say sellers or buyers, but if you're looking at it in a vacuum, more sellers to try to retool and then compete again for next season.
So then going off that one thing that you said, so you said that like in your opinion, if you're if you're rebuilding, it means you don't have someone to build around. So obviously Trae Young is one of their best player, or is their best player, one of the best point guards in the league.
Quit being modest, Brian. I know what he did to your Knicks. I know what he did. Okay,
yeah,
quit being modest.
He's hating himself.
That balding lollipop with hair didn't do anything to my Knicks other than beat us when Elfrid Payton and Taj Gibson were playing meaningful minutes. He's dead to me. But carrying on, so like there's some great players in the NBA that just aren't championship caliber players. Like their brand of basketball won't win a championship. I think the biggest guy there is James Harden. So what I want to point to you is just due to an undersized guard. And I know the Hawks went to the Eastern Conference Finals that one year, but other than that, they haven't really gone far. So I was going to ask you, do you think is Trae Young a winning? Like, can he win a championship?
Can we pause right here? Did you just? The Clippers are really good right now. Okay, really good. They have 4 All-Stars.
Yeah.
And you're still saying that James Harden is not going to win a championship?
No.
Barring injury, this Clippers team is a Western Conference favorite of mine. Mm-hmm. Western Conference Finals favorite of mine. Correct that.
I love the Clippers, but I don't think James Harden. I mean, maybe his Clippers role is a lot different.
So his role is a facilitator. And he's been doing phenomenal with that role.
I don't know. Clippers going to quit. James Harden's not a winner. Kawhi and Paul George, one of them.
That's what I said when they were 0-5. But still.
They're now 21-13, I think, on the season.
They're 22-12.
22-12.
23-13.
Sorry, 23 and 13. Yeah, they're around the top 5 seed in the NBA in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they're the 4 seed.
Yeah, at least Western Conference Final. That's what I'm saying, Meyer. Yeah, go back to your conversation. Sorry, you just triggered a Rockets fan.
Listen, they're on paper Western Conference Final contenders. I need to see them actually do it because, like Meyer said, the Clippers are crazy.
Yes, you're right. Technically, you're right, but the run that they're on right now, ever since their James Harden adjustments, it's really good. It's fantastic. It's great to watch.
Clippers were supposed to be contenders for a while, though, and they've disappointed.
Yes, and they finally have been. Maybe they have a lot less, like Kawhi and PG have a lot less of energy or load to take because of James Harden. James Harden makes that. It's the James Harden effect. He makes his teammates better because he takes care of more of the basketball duties when it comes to facilitating. And let's switch shift back. Sorry, I had to bring that up. You mentioned James Harden is not going to win a ring in his career. This is his last year to do that, and I think this will be the year that it happens. So, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, Brian. I mean, it's a fair argument, I'd say. For me, I think you can win a championship with Trae Young. Just in my opinion, if Trae Young doesn't step on Sean Wright's foot, the Hawks make it to the NBA Finals. They were up 2-1 in the series. They were up 10 points in the fourth quarter of that game. Ended up losing that game, ended up losing the series. Since that moment, the Hawks and Hawks fans have just been way downhill. But I think Trae Young's brand of basketball, he can still win a championship for sure. But I think you need the right pieces around him, especially the most importantly at that shooting guard position. And in my opinion, that's a guy who, maybe 6'5", 6'6", great point of attack defender, can handle the rock a little bit, is going to shoot the three ball, and is just going to be a solid 3-and-D type guy. That's what I think you need at the shooting guard around Trae Young, and Murray has not been that.
Mikey, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
A player just popped in my head that like might work, but I want your take. Ballparking. How does Marcus Smart sound for your shooting guard for Atlanta?
That's not terrible, but
Okay.
I don't think, especially as from point of attack perspective, and he also shoots the three ball way more than he did, especially when he first came into the league. I just don't think that the Hawks would want to bring in another point guard. I know he came into the league technically as a shooting guard a little bit, but I don't think the Hawks would want to try another point guard after they all signs point to trade away DeJounte Murray at this deadline.
Okay. But you said defensively, DeJounte Murray isn't as good as he used to, and Marcus Smart is, well, he's the defensive player of the year in 2022. So
I think that's just me from the perspective of if they do look to move Murray, but Smart fits on paper. It's just do you want another point guard with Trae Young, because maybe you want a slightly more volume 3-point shooter and a backup point guard. That's the thing that you gotta weigh for the benefits of that, because the Grizzlies are probably selling at the deadline too. That's a good point.
that's what I'm saying. Better look out for that.
I don't know if this is too mean or like too.
No, don't. I mean, they've been terrible. So don't worry about it. The Hawks have been bad, really bad.
It's somewhere between mean and maybe premature. We'll start with that. I do not think that the Atlanta Hawks, with Trae Young as their best player, can win an NBA Finals. But I also think it's like would be a crime to just abandon what the Hawks are doing. Like Trae Young could definitely be like a really, really good 2 on a championship team. But getting there is going to take some time, and I mean that like roster construction wise, because finding another guy better than him is going to take a lot of not only searching but a lot of assets, which they might need to replenish after trading away Murray. And that leads us to like this trade deadline, which I think is like unfortunately a pretty important trade deadline for the Hawks.
Huge. This is the most important deadline it's been in years,
because they have a lot of guys that I know some teams will definitely want. I mean, Bogdanovich is going to be highly
6th man of the year right there.
He's going to be highly sought after. There's going to be a bunch of contending teams that are going to want to try and pry him a lot more than they're going to want to try and pry Murray away from the Hawks. So I think what I guess the bottom line of it is just like this trade deadline is super important for them. And I don't have any really answers of like what definitively they should do. But they definitely have to change up the roster makeup that they have now. And whether that's really buying in on a, like a 3-and-D team or an uber defensive team around Trae, or if it's doubling down on offense, like I'm not quite sure what it is, but they need to change whatever this formulation of the team is. They have to change it. And it's gonna kind of lay the path forward for the next 2 to 3 years of how they go about things. So
yeah, Trae has 4 years left on his contract. And I think going into this deadline, I got 3 keys for the Hawks. Number 1, you've got to find a way to get Jalen Johnson to be your second option on scoring. That is why I think Murray is another reason why Murray I like DeJounte Murray as a player. I think he's a great point guard, all-star caliber. I think if you went to the Lakers, for example, even the Knicks, I think Jalen Brunson can play off-ball well too. We saw that with Luka Doncic. Those teams have been rumored. I think Murray would thrive in those situations, but it's just not the right fit for him in Atlanta. Number 2, you can't be the 27th smallest team in the NBA around Trae Young. that will work. Jalen Johnson moving to the 3 will help that if the Hawks can trade Clint Capella. Onyeka Okongwu is an undersized center, but he just signed an extremely team-friendly deal over the offseason. And I think the Hawks need to find out what he can do in 30 minutes a night at center. They've never been able to see that. I think it's time you've got to experiment. And third, you've got to find a way to get off of DeAndre Hunter's contract and or Sadiq Bey, because Sadiq is going to be a unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. He doesn't help the Hawks defensively. And DeAndre Hunter, I'll throw in there because Mario, you're bringing him up. Hunter's solid. He's a great defensive organizer, really helps the back line defensively. And if you have a back line of Hunter, Jalen, and Okongwu or Capella, if he's still here, that's fine. But the perimeter defense is the real issue. But the last thing I'll say is, if I was to paint a perfect picture of how I want the roster to look starting next season, it would be Trae Young at the 1. The rumors are that the Knicks deal is close. If that's the case, Quentin Grimes is probably the piece that's coming to Atlanta in that trade. I'd have him starting at the 2. Great point of attack defender, great shooter. He's got all he's the archetype of the player I'd envision next to Trae Young long term. Jalen Johnson at the 3. Pascal Siakam, if that can still happen, at the 4, if the Hawks extend him. I know that's a long shot, but we're just talking hypothetical here. And Onyeka Okongwu at the 5. That would be my ideal roster. And then you got Kobe Buffkin, who's averaging 30 points in the G League right now, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and then some other guys coming off the bench. That's my ideal situation for the Hawks starting next season.
Would you like Malcolm Brogdon?
I mean, off the bench, it would be nice, but I don't think he would help that much because Kobe, like I said, the Hawks needed a clear way for Kobe Buffkin, in my opinion. He was untouchable in the Siakam trades in the offseason, and he's been amazing in the G League. He looks like a steal for a 15th pick, honestly. Right now, at least.
Okay.
I've been trying to get DeJounte Murray on the Chicago Bulls for like 3 years. It's not like a personal campaign of mine. And I think there's some combinations of trades between those two teams that could be really interesting. I'm not going to necessarily lay them out, but I think there could be some things there, like sort of like a resetting destination for a player that might like be interesting.
Yeah, I thought it was a Murray destination up until Kobe White.
Yeah, now Kobe White's
looking
incredible.
like a budding offensive star. He's having a great season, man. So.
Because if the Hawks
I've always been high on Kobe White.
If the Hawks could somehow pry like Alex Caruso,
that'd be nice.
And
I was also my next guess. Like, hey, Mikey, how about Alex Caruso?
Yeah, like if they could somehow pry Caruso off there, and then a couple other pieces, because Chicago has some nice players. I just think that situation is bad.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think they're similar to Atlanta in my opinion. Situation, the fit, the roster construction isn't good, but yeah.
I feel like Atlanta's in a much better situation though.
Yeah, I feel like Atlanta's a better spot.
Yeah, you have a franchise star. Chicago has none, and
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
But they have pieces that could be well suited in different franchises. So,
yeah, Chicago put all their eggs in one basket with pretty much Lonzo Ball when they were the 1 seed, and then once he went down. I mean, apparently he's starting running now or something, but I don't know if he can ever actually make a comeback. And then if he does, he's probably not going to be himself.
Yeah, last thing I'll say is it sucks because we mentioned the Pistons. They're 3-33. I hate to compare the Hawks to the Pistons, but the Hawks right now are 14-21. On paper, there is no way that roster should be 14-21. So like it's just one of those things where it needs a soft reset, and I think
yeah, a soft reset sounds like the move for the Hawks. I mean, when you guys faced my Rockets, your offense was electric.
Yeah, it is
electric. And you guys played without Jalen Johnson, and it was just electric. We could not defend Trae Young or Bogdan on the perimeter. We just couldn't.
He's with the so good. Jalen, Jalen's the only guy on this team that can put pressure on the rim besides Trae Young. So when he operates in the short roll and passes to the corner or tries to dunk over, I mean, he posted Chet Holmgren the other week. against OKC. I mean, he just puts both on both ends. He's one of the only two-way players on this team, so he's a piece for sure.
Okay. Let's get to a couple of just news stuff that's going on with the NBA, especially with injuries. The Grizzlies expected to probably get over their hump, over their slow start in the NBA. They got Ja Morant back after 25-game suspension. Since then, the Grizzlies were 6-3 with Ja Morant on the roster compared to their lackluster, 9-19 record when they got him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, Ja Morant, which initially was supposed to be a sore shoulder, is a torn labrum. He's out for the season. Be ready for next season. The Grizzlies, initially supposed to be a decent contender in the Western Conference after a pretty solid offseason, getting Marcus Smart. Desmond Bane gets more of an established role. Jaren Jackson Jr. coming off his Defensive Player of the Year honors. And as they eagerly waited for Ja Morant to come on the roster, now he's gone for good for the season, rather. Not he's dead. He's not dead, but he's gone for the season. Man, I think personally, the Grizzlies just need to sell their season and just chalk it up for next year. I wouldn't consider them to be sellers. I would just honestly just don't do anything. Rather, maybe trade away players that have no contribution at all and just get assets. That's kind of what they should do. Go for the NBA draft if they can. I'm not sure what their draft situation is when it comes to pick swaps or anything like that, but yeah, the Grizzlies are probably in their worst era of Ja Morant this season.
I think.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Brian.
So I was just gonna say is two things with like the Grizzlies in terms of staying put at the deadline. I agree with you, Jeremy. The Grizzlies were semi-title contenders this year coming into it, even with the Morant suspension. Now, obviously, that's out the window. And they're honestly, if they have their pick, they might be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft next year. As far as the trade deadline goes, they should stay put because this team next year healthy is title contention. But there's two guys I could see getting moved. One is Derrick Rose, just for the fact that he's on a 1-year deal, I'm pretty sure. And so a veteran needy backup point guard or someone who needs a veteran backup point guard could trade for him. And then the second guy is Luke Kennard, just because I think someone would want to bench sharpshooter that can pretty much just like shoot. And he's also not terrible defensively. So maybe they stay put, but I wouldn't be surprised if those two guys that got moved.
I think Derrick Rose is a title contender, backup point guard material.
No, I don't anymore.
I think he's just rebuilding team material, to be honest.
I think he's cooked, unfortunately.
There's really nothing else he can do except, coach young guys on a rebuilding team. Send him back to Send him back to Detroit. I mean,
that would actually be nice.
It would be nice.
They have a ton of guards too.
Yeah, but
I agree with Brian there. I think Luke Kennard really is the only piece that might get sent at the deadline. But to Jeremy's point, Kennard is huge for what they do. That team really lacks perimeter shooting. Besides Kennard and Desmond Bane, I mean, you look at Jake LaRavia has not panned out the way they wanted to. You've got they traded away DeAnthony Melton. In my opinion, is one of the worst underrated trades that's happened in the recent 2 years of the NBA. Mm-hmm. And David Roddy's not that shooter. Vince Williams isn't going to do that for you. They got Jacob Gilyard coming in playing minutes. He's 5'8", 5'9". They don't have a lot of shooting there at all. So they could keep Kennard for next season because he's so important to them. But if a team is offering similar to, say, like a Bogdan Bogdanovic type of package, which would probably be like either two picks or a pick and a solid rotation piece, then you, if they're not offering that, then you do what Jeremy said and then stay put and reload for next season.
Yeah, it's a bummer that he got hurt. He was playing pretty well coming back and everything, and obviously, you can have whatever your opinions were on the 25-game suspension. It just sucked that he wasn't playing. Like, he's just very entertaining. So, and the way that it happened too, he injured it in practice in a private training session. And then the team doctors didn't know until the next day, until they did an MRI, that he tore his labrum, which is just bad luck, really, really bad luck. For the Grizzlies for the rest of the season, they weren't a good team without Ja, and they probably, like, this little 2-week stretch of having him back, they're probably not going to be a good team without him, even if they were able to correct some issues while he was here. But I don't necessarily think they're going to be sellers. Like, I think you guys have a pretty good read on what they're going to do. Excuse me. If anything, they're going to maybe trade one of their rotation players, whether it's Kennard or Xavier Tillman, or I don't know what the rules are for trading injured players off on the back of my hand. I know injured players have been traded before, but they have guys like Clark and Steven Adams to where if they did want to get a little funky and they wanted to look towards like next season and maybe buying low on somebody, I'm just going to throw a name out here. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if they wanted to buy low on like a Kyle Kuzma, there's trades that they could make salary wise, and they have all of their picks. I think they even have a couple other teams' picks. So they could make a trade for the future if they wanted to get funky. That's I'll leave it at that. But just a bummer for the Grizzlies, just their entire season, really. It's gonna kind of a wash for the rest of the year.
And for the NBA in general. I mean,
Yeah.
like you said, Jaws is a great player to watch on the court.
What I'm more upset about is the fact that they waived Kenneth Lofton Jr.
Right?
He's a dog, bro. Have you seen him play?
Yeah,
he's so fucking good.
He's a shutdown legend. In April, he was just going crazy when every team shuts down their players.
He's like the light-skinned Zion in the G League. That's what I think he is.
Yeah.
He's a light-skinned Zion in the G League.
he had 40 in a game last year. Like, you don't just cut a guy who scores 40. I know you can put up points easy in this league now, but come on. And he's on the Sixers now, right? Sixers picked him up.
Shout out to 50-point legend Corey Brewer.
Yeah, he's more like Zach Randolph. Hey, also Grizzlies legend. Within this short week so far, it's Tuesday, is Tyrese Halliburton, the franchise star for Indiana Pacers, suffered a grade 1 hamstring in his home court against the Boston Celtics. I mean, you're playing at home. How do you get injured by slipping in the paint? Pacers people, mop the court better. Come on. Am I right, guys? Am I right?
Giannis put all of the equipment managers and just like
on notice.
On notice. So it shouldn't have just been the Bucks. Like, everyone should have taken that, and the Pacers failed.
Yeah. But the Pacers did win, though. But they should have said also it starts with the equipment manager, but also we won by 2 points.
That equipment manager should have to give his hamstring to Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah,
that should be the only remedy.
But luckily, it looked worse than it did.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, he's going to be out for like 2 or 3 weeks. So yes, Tyrese Halliburton is out. He is the nucleus of the Pacers offense, and if he's out, it's TJ McConnell time, baby. TJ McConnell.
We sort of mentioned this. I forget what team we were talking about earlier, but kind of like a deja vu season for them. It's kind of a deja vu season for the Pacers because they were cooking last year, first half with Halliburton, and then he got hurt. I think what happened to him? He tore his quad or something, or strained his quad, and it kept him out for a while. The Pacers were really cautious with him. So hopefully this injury is not as significant, and they have a better team this year, so hopefully they can stay afloat. But it definitely puts a damper in their chances to kind of create some space here leading up into the deadline. So when he comes back, it'll be interesting to see where their team is at and what if any trades they're thinking about making. Because it's not like if you know he's going to come back, trading for a backup point guard, it's that's not the solution. But figuring out sort of how to manage what you're losing with him and everybody else on your team, there could be a spot for an addition on the team, but it'll be tricky.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be hard for that front office because, he's coming back in at least 2 weeks. He's going to be reevaluated then. And with the Pacers, especially the way the season's going right now, you don't want anything to happen long term over the next after these 2 weeks, like 2.5 months of the season. So they're going to be cautious. I would lean probably more towards the 3 weeks case here for Halliburton, but it sucks because I think they were a perfect suitor for Pascal Siakam. I think that those rumors are true. I think you could include Benedict Maverick in those. You can include Jarris Walker if you wanted to. If you're the Pacers, they have a lot of pieces that the Raptors would like, and Siakam fits their offense well with run and gun, with what he can do attacking seams over and over and over again in a defense on the half court. So I think it's really bad timing because if the Pacers sink somehow to below 500 in this stretch, they added Bruce Brown, but other than that, really no significant additions from that last year's team that sucked without Tyrese Halliburton. They were really bad, and it's just terrible timing for them. So it's going to be hard for the front office to determine whether to still buy and go for the playoffs. But at the very least, it's not some grade 2, grade 3 hamstring strain, which would have kept them out pretty much for the entire season, especially grade 3. That would require surgery. But it looks like they avoided a disaster. So good for Pacers fans there. But let's see if they can keep it afloat and convince the front office to still buy at the deadline and see if they make the playoffs when they come back or when he comes back.
Brian, you got anything?
No, I agree with everything that was said so far. Not really much to add.
Okay.
Cool. Also, one more thing. I think TJ McConnell at that point guard position can definitely hold the fort, but
sure.
he's a better defender than Halliburton, just straight up. Their defense might get a little bit better, honestly, with Halliburton off the court, but their offense is going to plummet. Benedict Mathurin, to me, really has to carry the usage and the shooting there for them to be able to keep up with the scoring of a lot of teams that they're next to, like the Hawks, the Celtics, the Kings, some of these teams that score a ton of points consistently. Now they're going to see if they can keep up with those guys and stay in the playoff race.
I got a question, Phil. So regarding the Pacers, so had this injury not have occurred, and the Pacers have the number 1 offense in the NBA, but are a top 3 worst defense in the NBA, do you think they would have still made any moves to either keep scoring points, or now with Halliburton injured, do you think they'll go more of a defensive route at the trade deadline?
Honestly, I think it depends. I'm looking at their first 5 games or so without Halliburton and see where they go, because there's been rumors that Buddy Hield is in the trade market, Miles Turner is in the trade market. So I think, actually, never mind. Their schedule is pretty easy. They play the Wizards, the Hawks, the Nuggets, the Jazz, the Kings in their next 5. So, okay, never mind. They might go the defensive route and try to get better, because they'll probably go 4-1 in that next 5.
Well, without Halliburton.
Sorry, 3-2. 3-2.
I don't even know about that.
I mean,
I think they could definitely still. I think regardless of if Halliburton was hurt or not, they were going to make some sort of move. It just seems like the Buddy Hield or Miles Turner, their time has just run out in Indiana. And if they're, at least from my perspective, if they're going to do something, which they've been hinting at for the last 3 years of trading Miles Turner or trading Buddy Hield, like now's the time to do it. So I think one of those guys is probably gone, and it won't be a straight offensive player. It'll be somebody who's a little bit more like versatile. Definitely somebody who can play defense, probably a bigger wing who can play defense. Because I have some former stock purchases for Aaron Nesmith that I've been trying to get people to believe in him. He's good defensively, but he's sort of erratic. I wouldn't say he's like a defensive stopper. He's more of just like a hustle defender. So if they could get a bigger wing to kind of pair with him and cause some havoc, that'd be interesting. And then you get Halliburton back. Maybe they're still around the 500 market, but there's still some move for them to make. And I wouldn't mortgage their future either. I know a lot of people are throwing Jarris Walker into trades.
He's a first round
pick. He's an
7th or 8th overall pick from Houston, Texas.
I just keep doing that because because that's in my opinion the only way, because they're strongly linked to Siakam. The Hawks, the Kings, well, Shams reported the Kings are out on Siakam, but the Hawks, the Pacers, those two teams are really the
Warriors
teams that are
too.
looking at Siakam. So that's why I
Warriors
can
also.
If the
totally
Warriors try to trade for
Oh,
Siakam,
yeah.
they're pretty much like saying farewell, goodbye to their dynasty, even though they've been terrible this season, and they're ending probably their dynasty this year with a lot of the
I agree.
Draymond Green talks, and of course Clay Thompson not getting an extension and stuff like that. So, Jarris Walker, when I mentioned his impact as a top 10 pick from the University of Houston, he's not really used much. That's right. He's not really used much. And I think he'll be a great pairing to acquire an actual franchise player in Pascal Siakam. Or because if you're the Pacers, you got to look for defense right now, and you got to look for also versatility. So you look at teams that are just blowing it up, throwing a fire sale. Raptors, Bulls, Wizards might also be. Where did Brian go? He left.
Laptop die or something.
Yeah, probably.
My bad. I hit the wrong button.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the Wizards might also be a contender because they have some pretty decent pieces, offense wise and facilitation. So they have a lot of options if they do want to use their rookies that they picked in the draft to trade for that aren't being used at all much in the NBA right now. So I think that'd be definitely a player that they should definitely look for, though. I think no one's really been talking about this. I was talking with Bill Ingram I think early this week about who the Rockets should acquire for in exchange for Jay Tate, Jock Landale, and Reggie Bullock, and a couple of and a first round pick or so. I would either get Royce O'Neal or Dorian Finney-Smith. Either of those two players.
I like those two.
Dorian Finney-Smith is lights out from the 3-point line. He's also one of the more underrated defenders in the league, which is why the Mavericks face the Warriors in the Western Conference Finals. He is a key piece when it comes to defense, and which is why the Mavericks were suffering after he was traded to Brooklyn. So I think they should really go after someone like him, a high size, not necessarily a center, but sort of like spacer who also can defend the perimeter and the rim. He's very versatile on the court, pretty much. And I really feel like that's something that they should definitely look for, because the Brooklyn Nets are sort of teetering. They're a team of just role players, like really good role players and a good all-star caliber player in Mikal Bridges. I don't think Mikal Bridges is a franchise star.
Yeah,
I thought he kind of could have reached that threshold last season, but he's kind of regressed a little bit this year.
A lot of it's the efficiency. I just think
what
he was doing last year on Brooklyn, I didn't think it was going to stick. And yeah, he's scoring a lot. He has the highest usage on the team right now. But I think we all know that as he's probably more suited as like a third option and more focusing on locking down the perimeter or the opposing team's best wing on the other side.
Yeah, I just think the thing with Bridges is kind of like what Mikey was saying and what Meyer said, like teams scouting against him. He was never in his career the first option. He was probably never even the second option. Then he comes to Brooklyn and he had his time as the first team option, and he was amazing that half season with Brooklyn, and he started off good. But yeah, not even at Villanova. And now teams are kind of figuring him out and they're double teaming him and whatever. And I saw that when Ben Simmons doesn't play, that's when Bridges kind of has those off games, because they double team Bridges. He's not used to that type of pressure, and then he becomes kind of erratic. And Ben Simmons is no longer the Ben Simmons he was when he came into the league, but he's still a good playmaker. And
he's been out.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying like when he plays.
Yeah, because when he was playing to the beginning of the year. No, well, Brian's right, because when Simmons played to begin the season, he took a lot of that ball handler pressure off Bridges. I think now since this back issue for him, Bridges has been shooting terribly recently. He had a good game against the Blazers. They went into overtime. The Nets won the game. He had 42 points, I believe. But before those, he had a stretch of like 2 weeks where his efficiency was terrible, and it looked like he was tired, pretty much.
Yeah, and you can never really trust Ben Simmons to come back. So
Yeah.
I think he's done for the NBA.
And also Cam Johnson has been fine. I was kind of hoping he would take the next step up, but he's just been fine.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can sort of conclude this podcast episode. This was great. Really good NBA discussion all around. Really, guys. Awesome return to form. Couple of last things to just address briefly. Vote again, Alperen Şengün for the All-Star game. Do you guys want to vote any other player for the All-Star game you think should be deserving of?
Vote Brunson, Randall, Hartenstein. Vote the big three.
Brunson's definitely going in. Brunson's a lock, dude. Like no one's gonna change their mind. And be like, oh, I think I should vote for Brunson since Brian told me. Like, no, he's gonna go.
Hey, Becky Hammond said he wasn't a 1A player.
She was right.
Yeah, but no, Şengün really needs support.
I think Brunson and Randall both make it.
Randall's not on the ballot as of now, which is crazy to me.
Vote Trey.
Yeah, but don't the votes only matter for the starters, and then like it kind of resets with the coaches vote for the reserves and everything? Like Randall will make it as a reserve, definitely has to.
Yep.
Probably.
Trey Young needs to be an all-star in my opinion. He's
playing
out of his mind. The team is bad, but he's been playing out of his mind.
What, you don't want another snub?
Trey, I think
he was snubbed last year, right? He didn't.
He was. Yeah.
But he wasn't playing as good.
He wasn't playing as well as this year. I can kind of understand it last year, but this season, you've got Brunson, you've got Mitchell, you've got Halliburton, got Maxey. Those four guys.
And Halliburton might not play in the All-Star game.
But if Halliburton might not play, Dame is
as well
right now. But Dame leads the NBA, and I don't remember what the number of shots it was, but it's 8 games to where he's shooting like below 35% from the field when he's
like oddly cold.
Shots.
Yeah,
I think he's getting name recognition for his All-Star right now. He's not had a good year by any stretch.
Welcome to the All-Star game.
But
welcome to the All-Star
fan
game.
votes. It's the fan votes. We'll see what happens with the actual league voting.
To be over Dame, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen now.
Okay. Last thing we want to address is the Warriors. The Golden State Warriors are the 11th seed. They've been terrible this season. Steve Kerr is probably one of the most overrated coaches in the NBA. I'm just say it right there. I'm gonna say it right there, especially right now. Every time. Have you seen this in his interviews? He never ever takes responsibility. He just blames it on the refs. He blames it on the fact that his players get no respect. The fact that he says, "Oh, there's been several no calls that have gone against us," or they don't. He also doesn't like actually say that Draymond's actually been sort of a cancer to the team. He doesn't do any of that. And there's been some reports that there's been reports that the roster as a whole has sort of just not really trusted Kerr very much this season. Like Jonathan Kuminga gets underused.
Moses Moody.
Yeah, Moses Moody. Like he's sticking with his old geezers in Curry, Thompson, and Kevon Looney now, I guess. Kevon Looney's not that old anyways, but Draymond Green, whenever he comes back, he's gonna be a starter for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been very critical of Steve Kerr ever since his choking in the FIBA World Cup. And then I watched that game against the Nuggets where Jokic had that crazy 40 feet game winner. But
that was ridiculous.
That was awesome.
Kuminga was playing great. I think he had 16 points in 18 minutes or something like that. And then he went with Wiggins the rest of the way.
Yeah, Wiggins.
That just didn't make sense to me. And I think the Warriors bench is very underrated because it's young talent, two-way talent. Brandon Podziemski has been quietly good.
He's good.
And
he replacing the Rockets.
And replacing Jordan Poole. Trace Jackson Davis is another diamond in the rough. The Warriors bench is quietly becoming last year's Miami Heat. where they're just getting these random guys that have been kind of keeping the Warriors like in check. And
Sarge has
Kerr
been good.
doesn't give them the minutes to prove it.
Sarge is not bad either. But
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
the thing is-
Sarge isn't bad.
the thing is, Kerr went deep in his bench when he was in his first couple of seasons as the Warriors head coach. But then when he got all the rings and the playoff appearances and the finals appearances, he's been mostly sticking with the core that got him there. And he's not trusting much of the young players that, well, if y'all remember, the Warriors bench in 2015 through 2017 was solid.
Yeah.
Beautiful, solid
And
players.
John Livingston, Leandro Barbosa.
Yeah, Barbosa was
Stevie.
annoying, but like annoyingly good in a
Yeah.
way.
And he has
Yeah.
to trust his bench now too, because Chris Paul, that we didn't talk about, TP3
Fractured his hand, another injury. Yeah, that's it. Appreciate y'all for watching. If y'all enjoyed our return, like, subscribe, comment. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're also on Instagram, Twitter. Follow us on there. We'll be posting clips from our podcast episodes on our pages. With that being said, Mikey, thanks for joining. Matt, thanks for joining as well.
Yeah.
Brian, my co-host, myself, Meyer, our producer. We thank you for watching. Let's cut the nets. Signing out. See y'all next time.